So, hey everyone, I wanted to show you this little basic shader material setup for quite a while now, and it's a pretty basic thing that I use in almost every single Unreal project I am ever creating, and you can always see it in any asset I make. They use the same kind of material shaders, they use the same principles. We have like simple controls over here, and then we just input our textures, and we have a color tint, and it's pretty universal. It's literally for every single kind of material you would want, and it is pretty expandable and modular as well. So without further ado, let's just completely dive into it. First things first, let's just create a simple material, and I'm gonna make it in my materials folder, or actually just in content, it doesn't really matter. And I'm gonna call it m underscore PBR master. I like to call my main materials master materials. It's completely up to you though. And I'm gonna get it over here, and there will be nothing that we need to do with the overall setup here. But what we want to do now is we want to start with base color. So texture sample is the first thing that usually comes to mind. And this one is going to be our albedo or base color. So I'm gonna right click here and convert to parameter. And in here, I'm gonna type in base color. Simple, very, very simple so far. So we want AO to affect our base color. Since I don't really like how AO looks when I plug my AO into ambient occlusion, I actually like it more when I apply it directly to my base color, and it's a little bit counterintuitive what I'm doing, but if you don't want this step, you can always just plug your ambient occlusion directly into the ambient occlusion slot here. So next thing, I'm going to copy and paste this, and we're going to have, for setup, I always use for Unreal Engine ORM textures, or textures that use ambient occlusion or occlusion, roughness, and metallic, and they're masked in RGB channels. That's just how I work, and if you don't, you can have separate texture samples for every single map you're using. So what we're going to do here is we're going to grab our little um, occlusion map here, and we're gonna say lerp, and we actually want this in the B channel, and we're gonna have a constant. You can bring out a constant by clicking 1 and left click on your keyboard, and I'm just gonna have this as 1, and the intensity here, or sorry, the alpha here is gonna be our AO intensity, and we're gonna bring out a scalar parameter. It's gonna be called AO intensity. Pretty simple. And just plug it in here. And now how we actually apply these is we just bring out a multiply by pressing M and left click on our keyboard, and just multiply the two values together. And that's how I like to apply my ambient occlusion. And we can come over here, and actually, well, let's finish this whole thing up and then we will comment it. So I'm gonna bring out another multiply node here, and I'm gonna bring out a color value by pressing 4 and left click, and I'm gonna click right click on it and convert to parameter, and this I'm gonna call color tint, or you can call it color in general, it doesn't really matter. And I'm gonna set default value to white, so it doesn't do really anything until I actually want to tint it, and just connect this into base color. Simple as. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna comment this. So C, and just select everything and press C to comment everything, and this is gonna be our base color. And I like to color code everything, just makes everything a little bit more recognizable and fun. So we're getting errors here, and how I like to deal with those errors, you can either put a base color or whatever texture you like here, but I like to put black textures that come with the engine. And if you don't know how to access these, they should be, if you press here and go settings, And you should see here show developers engine and plugin content. When you enable these, you should be able to see this black texture, just plain old black texture. There's really nothing to it, it's just a placeholder. And I use it as such. Next up, the metallic. So as we have this OR map, it's occlusion, roughness, and metallic. Metallic is in the blue channel. So metallic is a pretty simple one. I just use a multiply node, and I just press S plus left click and say metallic intensity, and plug it into the multiply, and plug that into metallic. For specular, it's pretty simple as well. I just use a simple parameter to determine it. And since the default value when you don't put anything into the specular is 0.35, I believe, I'm gonna leave this at 0.35. I'm gonna comment this and just say metallic and do something like this, maybe, who knows. Next up on our list is roughness, and for roughness we will do something different. We'll actually use a power node, and same thing, scalar parameter and roughness intensity, or you can call it roughness power, but I just like to keep everything with same name coding and plug it into the roughness. I like to keep this at somewhat like 0.5, somewhere in the middle, and then comment that as well, roughness, and I like this to be somewhat darkish, yeah, like that. Next up, what we do want to do, so this part really depends on whether or not you have an emissive color. If you do have an emissive color as a texture, you basically get this, get a texture sample and do emissive color, simple as, and then just press M and left click to get a multiply node and just get a scalar value and say emissive intensity. And I usually keep this as 0 and just plug it in emissive color here. If you don't have emissive color, a good substitute is to use the base color for emissive color and then tweak the values with the emissive intensity. But this really just depends on you and what workflow you're using. So I'm just gonna comment this and I'm gonna say emissive, and let's put some color on it. There we go. The last thing we should do is set up the normal map. And the normal map is pretty simple as well. So let's just bring out a texture sample, T plus left click to get the texture sample out, and then promote to a parameter and say normal map here. And now it's not really simple to just do multiply and then tweak the values that way, because this is a normal map and things are a bit different. So I would use a function personally. It's called normal flatten. It comes in built in. And basically what it does, it flattens the normal. And let's plug this into the normal here. And let's just have a basic placeholder here, normal placeholder. So it should have, yeah, we can do this. Doesn't really matter. The thing here is if you plug in here a normal intensity, let's say, and if you place a value of 1, that means you have flattened the normal map. And while you could use that and it seems fine, but if you want to intensify the normal map, you would have to do -1, which is, and -5 and more, which to me, it's a bit unhuman to do that. It's kind of weird and it complicates things really uh, without a reason. And the fix is just really simple. The fix is literally you just plug this in and 1 minus it. What that means is whatever you type in here, it will just invert the value. So 1 would be -1 and we would intensify the whole normal map. 0 would be 0 and the normal would be flattened, and so on and so forth. Pretty simple stuff. And I always do this because it helps you not have to think about stupid numbers, and this is just a thing you do once and you forget about it. And you can set this up anywhere. So you comment this and say normal, and let's place some kind of cool tech blue look to it. And well, that is basically it. The only thing we can do is we can make for tileables how many times you want to tile them. So what you would do in that case is just put some coordinates and append them and just put them into the UVs here. And most of the time I don't use that because for tileables it's a whole different story. This is just a simple PBR workflow for your props and whatnot. For tileables I usually create a whole another material because I don't want to be using unnecessary resources when I'm just having a simple asset in there, not a material. And when it's a material, it's a completely different story. And I will probably make a part 2 explaining a bit more in detail the material part of it, because that's a tiny bit more complicated and I don't want to get them messed up or anything. So just to test this, I can show you. Let's save it up, go to the main level, and let's do a create material instance. And let's say we want this pillar that I have created in one of the videos. And if I open this up, you will see quite a lot of things. Now, one thing we didn't do, and we should do probably, is actually put these guys in groups. And that's a good practice for everyone. So just select all the scalar values here, like so. And in the group section, I like to call them controls. Controls, yeah. And I like to put my color there as well. So just put them in controls. And for my textures, I like to select them all and put them in a group called textures. And what order you do these in is completely up to you. I just like to do it this way. So I like to have color tint first, and then sort priority, I have it 0, because if it's 0, it's the first thing that's going to show up. Then I have AO, so that's 1. I have specular, that is 2. I have metallic, that is 3. I have roughness, that is 4. I have emissive, that is 5. And I have normal, that is 6. And the similar thing I do for my textures. I do 1 for base color, I do 2 for ORM texture, I do 3 for normal map, and 4 for emissive. And let's just save that up, and I'm going to show you how it looks. And there it is. Textures, controls, all completely sorted out. Looks pretty cool. We can enable them all up. Yep. And I'm just going to put them aside so I can show you everything properly. So we can grab one of these pillars, just copy them, and they already have a material, but let's, oh, sorry, but that's, we're going to change it to this. Yep. And now it looks like, well, nothing. So I'm going to go to my section here where is pillars, and base color. We import the base color here. We import the ORM texture. We input the normal texture and the emissive. It doesn't really matter, does it? Uh, now, actually, I can show you this time. We are going to rewire this. Instead of using an emissive color here, we're going to use this and just rewire it to show you the how emissive actually works. It's pretty simple. It's just a little thing that you can add maybe a little bit of a touch to it. And now, as you can see, AO intensity, we can use it to completely destroy our model. I usually put this somewhere like in the 0.5 range. Specular intensity, 0.1, you can put to 0.9 even. It's completely up to you. You can tint this whole thing to whichever color you like. And the tinting feature is the one I really enjoy because it really helps you bring assets a bit closer to what you want. Metallic intensity, we don't have anything in metallic, so we can do this. We can multiply it all the way, all day long. Roughness, that's also one thing we can fiddle around. One, as you can see, it should be pretty glossy. And then, I mean, we can destroy it even more, but 0.3 should be pretty rough, as you can see. And 0.1, I like to put it 0.4, somewhat like that. Emissive intensity now, if I put 1, you will see it is glowing in the colors. And of course, you're not going to use this like that, but if you need a little bit more of a light touch to it, you can put like 0.1 value, just a 0.1, to kind of bring it up just a tiny bit. And now the normal intensity, you can see it just feels unnatural if you were to put like -1 here, like what is that even? But if you put 0, as you can see, almost nothing from the normal map, but you can press like 5 and just intensify the normal map severely. Just you can play around with it. I usually like to go either 1 or go a bit lower values on the normal map to see how it would look. And that is basically it. It's the complete material setup I use for almost everything I build in Unreal. And it's pretty intuitive, pretty easy to build up on. And I'm gonna probably do a part 2 of this where I explain a bit more how you would implement this for tilables. But all in all, this is a pretty simple thing you can implement in all of your projects. Implement it once and you don't have to think about it ever again, and just work in these instances because they're just super intuitive and super easy to work with. You don't need to touch the shader anymore once you have actually built all of this. So I hope this really helped you out, and I hope I see you very, very soon. Bye.